The morning sun painted the city in soft gold as luxury cars passed through the tall glass buildings. Inside one of them sat Isabella Reed, a woman who had everything: power, elegance, respect. She was the CEO of one of the biggest real estate firms in the city. To the world, she was untouchable, a woman who built an empire from nothing. But behind the confidence and the perfect image was a mother whose heart broke every single day. In the back seat, her 6-year-old daughter, Lila, sat quietly, hugging a stuffed rabbit to her chest. She had the most beautiful blue eyes, but they never met anyone's gaze for long. She hadn't spoken a word since she was 3. Doctors called it selective mutism, others called it trauma. But for Isabella, it was something deeper: guilt. Lila's father had walked out when she was just a toddler. His words still haunted Isabella: "You care more about your work than your family." Then he was gone, and a year later, their daughter stopped speaking altogether. Isabella tried everything: therapy, specialists, expensive schools, but nothing worked. Lila remained locked in her silent world. One Saturday, exhausted from endless meetings and sleepless nights, Isabella made a decision she hadn't made in years. "Let's go to the playground, sweetheart," she said softly. "Just you and me." Lila didn't respond, only held her rabbit tighter. The playground encounter. The playground was filled with laughter, children running, parents chatting, the smell of fresh grass in the air. Isabella felt strangely out of place in her designer heels and tailored suit. She found an empty bench, sat down, and watched as Lila wandered timidly toward the swings. That's when she saw him. A man in a simple t-shirt and jeans was kneeling beside a little boy who looked about 5. They were laughing as they tried to fix a broken toy car. The man's smile was genuine, warm, full of life. His hands were calloused, his eyes kind. Isabella watched as his son ran toward Lila, holding the toy car. "Wanna play?" he asked. Lila froze, clutching her rabbit. The little boy waited patiently. When she didn't respond, he just smiled and started playing near her instead, occasionally glancing her way. The man, Ethan Carter, walked over, giving Isabella a polite nod. "Sorry about my kid. He thinks everyone's his friend." Isabella managed a faint smile. "No, it's fine. She's just shy." Ethan noticed the way Isabella's shoulders tensed every time Lila avoided eye contact. He didn't press. Instead, he sat on the next bench, keeping a respectful distance. Minutes turned into an hour. His son, Noah, continued playing around Lila, talking, laughing, building sandcastles, even when she didn't respond. Then, something small, almost invisible, happened. When Noah's toy car fell apart again, Lila quietly picked up one of the wheels and handed it to him. She didn't speak, but her eyes softened. Ethan noticed and smiled gently. "Hey, that's teamwork." Isabella's heart skipped. It was the first time she had seen her daughter willingly interact with anyone in months. The connection. Over the next week, Isabella found herself taking Lila to the same playground every afternoon. And every day, Noah and Ethan were there, always patient, always kind. Ethan was a single dad who worked as a mechanic. His wife had passed away from an illness 2 years ago, and since then, raising Noah had been his entire world. He wasn't wealthy. He wasn't polished. But he was steady, the kind of person whose presence calmed everyone around him. "Your daughter's a bright kid," he said one day as they watched Lila and Noah build a sandcastle together. "She listens to everything, even when she doesn't talk." Isabella looked down, her voice quiet. "She hasn't spoken in 3 years." Ethan's expression softened. "That must be hard." "She used to sing," Isabella whispered, tears threatening her eyes. "Every morning. Now, I'd give everything I have just to hear her say one word again." Ethan didn't offer pity. He just said, "Sometimes, silence isn't weakness. It's healing." She'll speak when her heart feels safe again. Something about his words stayed with her. Safe, that was what Lila hadn't felt in years. The breakthrough. One sunny afternoon, the playground was nearly empty. Isabella sat with Ethan on the bench, watching the kids play. Noah handed Lila his toy car again. But this time, he said, "Can you help me fix it? It doesn't go vroom anymore." Lila tilted her head curiously. Noah giggled and said, "You have to say, vroom. It makes it go faster." Lila blinked. Her lips parted slightly. Ethan noticed and held his breath. Noah tried again, exaggerating it. "Vroom." And then, so faintly it almost went unnoticed, Lila whispered, "Vroom." The sound was tiny, broken, but real. Isabella froze. Her heart raced, her eyes wide as tears filled them. "Lila," she whispered, standing up in shock. Lila looked up at her mother, startled, then back at Noah, who smiled and shouted, "She said it. She said it." Ethan's eyes glistened as he looked at Isabella. She just needed a friend who wasn't afraid to listen. Isabella covered her mouth, trembling. For the first time in years, she heard her daughter's voice. And in that moment, surrounded by sunlight and laughter, she felt something shift inside her, something warm, something healing. The challenge. After that day, Lila began to change. She started humming softly when she played, making small sounds. Her doctors were astonished. Isabella began meeting Ethan and Noah regularly, not because of obligation, but because she wanted to. But the world wasn't kind. One afternoon, a business partner spotted her sitting in the park with Ethan. The next day, tabloids ran headlines. City's most powerful CEO seen with mechanic single dad, secret relationship. Rumors spread. Investors questioned her professionalism. Employees whispered behind her back. Her board pressured her to distance herself from distractions. Ethan noticed the tension. "If it's hurting your career, maybe I should step back." But Isabella shook her head. "You don't understand. You helped bring my daughter back to me. I won't let anyone take that away." The turning point. A few weeks later, the company hosted its annual charity gala. As Isabella gave her closing speech, she paused midway and looked toward the audience, where Ethan and Noah sat beside Lila. "I used to believe success was about power," she said, her voice steady but emotional. "But I've learned that real success is about connection, about people who remind us who we truly are." She looked at her daughter and smiled. "My greatest achievement isn't this company. It's the moment I heard my little girl say her first word again." The audience fell silent, touched. And for the first time in public, Lila, sitting proudly beside Ethan, whispered into the microphone handed to her, "Mommy." The room erupted in applause. Isabella broke down in tears, holding her daughter close. Ethan stood, eyes full of quiet pride. Resolution. In time, the noise of gossip faded. Isabella continued to run her company, but now she did so with balance, with heart. Ethan opened a small auto shop of his own, and she often stopped by with Lila just to say hi. Their lives slowly intertwined, not out of romance at first, but gratitude, friendship, and healing. Lila began to speak more freely, to her teachers, her mother, to Noah. Her laughter filled the house again. And one evening, as the sun dipped below the city skyline, Isabella turned to Ethan and whispered, "You didn't just make her speak, you made me remember how to feel again." Ethan smiled gently. "Maybe we both needed saving. Love doesn't always arrive in grand gestures or perfect moments. Sometimes, it comes quietly, through the kindness of a stranger, the laughter of a child, or a single word that changes everything." Lila found her voice because someone believed in her heart before her words. And Isabella found hers because kindness reminded her that healing begins when we stop trying to be perfect, and start being human. Speech Balloon, tell us in the comments, what did this story teach you about love, kindness, or second chances? Thumbs up. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Be Kind Always for more heart-touching and emotional stories that remind us, kindness can change lives.